The Cook County Chicago lakefront is absolutely incredible in spring, especially in fall migration for rare birds. My 2024 record-breaking big year was done in sort of an unprecedented fashion. I missed glaucous gull, worm-eating warbler, Kentucky warbler, and loggerhead shrike. Those four that I missed, I ended up seeing in 2025.
It's my birthday and I'll bird if I want to, bird if I want to. You would bird too, if it was you. Welcome to the birthday edition of the Big Year Podcast. Well, the only thing that makes it a birthday edition is because it's my birthday. I'm Robert Baumander and I'm 66 years old today. Do you like numbers? Of course, we all do. So here's a little birthday math for you. I was born on the 16th of the month in 1960, and 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 0 is 16. How about that? Hey, it's my birthday, I'll add if I want to. As birders, how do you celebrate your birthday? Me, I'm watching backyard birds while sipping morning coffee. Then I'll hope that my birthday wish of a rare bird comes true. So far, not so much. Anywho, I've spent much of the dog days of summer birding in my backyard and building a mini greenhouse and rock garden. They're finally finished and I can move on to more important things like, well, birding. And while sitting in my backyard, I've watched plenty of baby birds fledging from the trees. Just this week, there was a baby Downy Woodpecker, baby Common Grackles, and House Sparrows. I've seen young Baltimore Orioles, northern Cardinals, rose-breasted Grosbeaks, and even a recently fledged Black-capped Chickadee. Out in the wilds of southwestern Ontario, there are still moments of excitement to be found, as a couple of rarities dropped in for a visit during the past few weeks. At Hamilton Harbor, I wasn't in the harbor, along with a group of excited birders, I was able to enjoy watching a brown pelican. A very rare sighting for Ontario, and in fact, I only saw my first one last year along the Niagara River in Port Erie. Perhaps this is the very same bird. The other great find was even more personal, a Eurasian collared dove right here in Brantford. Again, I only ever had seen one in Ontario way back in 2018. That's how rare they are in these here parts. A couple of weeks ago, our very own Eurasian collared dove showed up in a local backyard, and the homeowner was gracious enough to allow visitors to come see it. So before I go off and birthday bird, let's meet our guest for today's episode. Tarik Shahzad is a Chicago birder who broke the Cook County Big Year record in back-to-back years, 2024 and 2025. We recently spoke about his big years and birding along the shores of Lake Michigan, which he says is one of the great places in North America to go birding. Let's find out, shall we? So, Tarik, tell me a little bit about yourself. And Cook County is where you did your big year, and where exactly is that in reference to the rest of Illinois?
So I'm born and raised Chicagoan, and so Cook County includes the city of Chicago in Illinois that rests next to Lake Michigan, but also the surrounding suburbs. And so Cook County is a pretty large county. It's like sort of shaped a little bit like Florida, with
Hmm.
a little panhandle, and it includes part of Lake Michigan into that border too, which is critically important for a big year because all of that
Hmm.
water counts. And so I was born and raised in the city of Chicago, and I've lived here my entire life except going up for college for 4 years out of state in Vermont. But I came back and now I work here professionally. County in northeast corner of Illinois. There's only one county above us, Lake County, and then you get to Wisconsin. And we also border Indiana on the southeast side.
Does that provide a special biosphere that allows for rarities and good numbers for a big year?
Absolutely. And so I think a lot of the state is jealous of Cook County and even Lake County above us, because we have Lake Michigan just to our east. A lot of these rare birds, especially these western vagrants, when they're just roaming and going eastward, what really stops them is geography, right? And
Right.
topography. And like a lot of these, especially like flycatchers and chestnut colored longspur, these other incredible birds we that have shown up in the past few years, western vagrants, they're just going to keep pushing east until they can't anymore, until something stops them. Lake Michigan will stop them. And so the Cook County Chicago lakefront is
Mhm.
absolutely incredible in spring, especially in fall migration for rare birds. So I think compared to the rest of the state, we do really well at pulling rare birds.
Let's talk about the young Tarik and how he got into birding.
It depends on what you define by young. I fell in love with the natural world at a really young age
Mm.
when I was a kid, and that's because Chicago, out of any other city in the country, has the most amount of green space per capita. So we have the incredible forest preserve systems, Cook County Forest Preserve System, as well as Chicago Park District. And these natural areas boast incredible biodiversity and opportunities for people to connect with nature. And that's what I fell in love with nature. And I went to school to study the environment as well. But I really didn't fall in love with birds until 2022.
Mhm.
So only about 4 years ago is when I got into birding, and it's quite easily to fall into the rabbit hole of listing and find as many different birds as possible. And with an incredible community of mentors and storied birders who've been birding for decades, and a vibrant community that was already existing and growing, it was quite easy to fall into the competitive aspect of birding and trying to find as many different as possible, working with others, that community aspect, and then a year and a half in, 2 years in, I decided why not just do a big year for fun, and then that's how I ended up here, and I did them back to back in 2024 and 2025.
When you did your 2024 one, was that setting out to break a record, or was that just to kind of feel your way around Cook County and see what you could come up with?
So it was the latter at first, and then it shifted to the former. So at the start of it, in December of 2023, I decided I'm going to do a 2024 Cook County Big Year. I just felt like the right thing to do to sort of accelerate my learning and to challenge myself and have a lot of fun with rarity searching. And my goal was to find a lot of the rare birds myself. And I was still a novice when it came to so many different aspects of birding, and I still am. I realized, despite the accelerated learning process, there's so much to birding. And halfway through the year, I was looking at my pace, how many birds I had and how many I think I could get, and I was
Mhm.
mapping out options. And I realized my initial goal at the start of the year was to hit 280 species in Cook County. That would have put me squarely number 10 all time on Cook
Right.
County Big Ears. And to hit 280, you need to get all the common birds, all the uncommon birds, and then you need several rarities on top of that, including mega rarities. You can't just get the regular rarities.
Mhm.
So 280 is not an easy feat, and very few people have ever done that in Cook County history. I hit 280 on September 14th, and I knew in the summer that I would hit 280 early. And so
Mhm.
from there, I felt like Icarus flying close to the sun. I was thinking, I think I can hit above my weight class here. And every bird after the Savins Gull, 281, 282, 283, I was getting closer and closer to Matthew Savitas' record, which was 293. And so by the end of it, I broke it by a frog's hair, but I got 294 species with my final one on December 8th. So it really came down to the wire.
Once you've broken the record, a lot of times people break a record and they're like, well, I've got the record. Now I can relax and let somebody else beat that before I go back out again. What prompted you to go right back at it? Were there other people that were competing that year that you thought, I don't want to let them break my record and I'm going to go even harder?
Yeah, Robert, it sounds like you're also a fellow birding lister and like you know these dynamics. And so everything you're saying is correct in the sense that like at first I started 2025, I didn't go chase certain birds. I was taking a break and my goal was to just take it easy. But then about once we were getting to April and May, so many rare birds that I missed in 2024. I missed specific birds: glaucous gull, worm-eating warbler, Kentucky warbler, and loggerhead shrike. Those four that I missed, I ended up seeing in 2025. So those were net positive pickups on my previous year if I'm competing with myself. So I was thinking like, wow, I could do this thing again. I have this cushion. And those were also, I would say, embarrassing misses that no one on previous Cook County Big Years had ever missed both Kentucky and worm-eating warbler and
Mhm.
has never missed glaucous gull. So my 2024 record-breaking big year was done in sort of an unprecedented fashion where I had to make up those birds with some big rarities.
Right.
But in 2025, I had two friends who were also going for big years, but not to like overshadow them or to outcompete them, but rather I just, because I stumbled upon Kentucky warbler, worm-eating warbler, and these specific other birds, these sort of nemesis birds, I had my target on them, regardless if I was going to do a Cook County big year or not. So I was looking at the math again and realized life's too short. Why not embark on this joyous journey
Mhm.
again? And so the fall was a grind. It was different than the 2024 fall. Our 2025 fall was really rarity scarce. And so it ended up being, again, going down to the wire. I thought it would be a blowout and I would break the record by five or eight birds, but ended up not being that. I ended up breaking the all-time record again, but only by 2 birds.
That's still an accomplishment. So tell me about Cook County and the logistics of traveling around and how you planned the big year. Did you do spreadsheets? Did you go by eBird statistics? What was your plan for doing either big year?
Right. So when I set out on the first big year, I copy pasted from eBird the Cook County all-time cited species,
Mhm.
unique species, and I think there was like 410 species ever. Maybe that's either Illinois or Cook County, and I copy pasted that into an Excel spreadsheet, and then I just put them in 3 buckets: a bird I expect to see, a bird that's rare but annual, so not guaranteed to see it, but there's a decent chance if I work really hard for it.
Mhm.
It maybe is like a rare migrant or something, or it has been cited in the past 4 out of 6 years, for example. So I
Right.
would put that in the second bucket. Third bucket is pure luck.
Mhm.
So like an ivory gull goes into the that pure luck bucket. And I mapped it out. And that's how I ended up getting to a 280 in my head,
Right.
using that Excel sheet in 2024 with those rare annual pickups and a couple of pure luck birds. So I was just
Mhm.
doing some crude math, and frankly, I didn't really know what I was doing. And but 2025, I had the same spreadsheet, but I didn't really have to reference it at all because I had learned from the first big year when certain birds are expected to show up. And so a lot of it in my head is timing. And also, I don't think the Excel sheets, even though I think it's great to plan out the big year,
Mhm.
doesn't need to be a reference throughout the year if you really know the birds,
Right.
because the majority, I would say 70, maybe even 80% of the species one sees on a county or state big year.
Mhm.
If you know that county or state well enough, those are going to be guaranteed pickups. Like you're just
Right.
going to go out birding and see those birds. So you don't
Mhm.
only have to worry about like a certain chunk of species,
Yes.
and you have to worry more about the logistics
Right.
than about the timing or the date, right? So you mentioned fall migration for seabirds, and we get, for
Mm.
some reason, the Great Lakes get this like small chunk of seabirds, typically just juvenile birds,
Yes.
Jaegers and Savins gulls, little gull, and they just, some of them traverse through the Great Lakes system instead of taking the open oceans. And
Yes.
that Lake Michigan, the prevailing winds in our region are westerly. That does not help because Chicago is situated on the western lakefront. And so, what we prefer when lake watching is an east wind, which is the least common wind type in the fall.
Right.
So, you're not guaranteed to get good lake watch winds. That's why we're really jealous of the southwestern portion of Lake Michigan and the southern portion of Indiana. They get incredible lake watches with Jaegers, but it is very, very difficult to get
Mhm.
Savins gull and Jaegers and little gull from shore in Cook County and in Lake County too. So I ended up having to schedule a bunch of pelagics and work with this really awesome guy named Donald Estep, who has a boat out of Berrien County, Michigan, and we would just go into Cook County waters and try our best to get a lot of different pelagic species. It worked out 2 years in a row, but so much of the big year was that, and then driving around in Chicago traffic. People are probably like squirming a little bit. Chicago traffic, that means I would drive sometimes an hour plus just to get to a birding destination.
I almost think Chicago might even have three directions of rush hour traffic.
We do have 3 directions: from the northwest, from the west, and from the south. I live in the northwest side of Cook County, northwest side of Chicago, so near the Panhandle area, right next to O'Hare, which is a really large airport. So I have quick access to the highway system, but that just takes me out of the county. But on my both my big years, I lived in Evanston. So I moved recently, but I used to live along the lakefront in the north part of Cook County. The thing is, I would say equally, there are great birds and rare birds that get spotted in northern Cook County and in southern Cook County. So if a bird's in southern Cook County, I mean, you're guaranteed in rush hour traffic an hour and 15 minimum drive back home. But if you can get there in the morning, then it's smooth sailing, which is nice. Like we have a decent highway system. But unfortunately, like you and I know this, I would prefer to take like a bullet train to go see my
Mhm.
rare bird than
Right.
being stuck in traffic. But it's the cards we've been dealt in the systems that we live in. And so I was at the mercy of our transportation infrastructure. So I try to do a lot of atonement by when I get to a birding spot, I make sure that I really take the time to bird it thoroughly and
Mhm.
to make sure that like my trip wasn't wasted, even if I like missed a rare bird or something like that.
I think big years when you move to a new place are a great way to force yourself to learn all the habitats in your new county or your new city. Even if you're not trying to break a record, you're still visiting places you'd never visit. And when you just started doing both big years, and even especially the second one, were you finding hot spots and habitats that you never expected to go to?
Definitely. Especially in the first big year, Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary. I think a lot of people have probably heard of Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary. It's one of the most e-birded hotspots in the entire world, and it's situated in the North Shore of Chicago. And it's an iconic spot, and I think most people probably have an e-bird spot a list from there if they've been to the region. But that place gets so much love and coverage, and so yes, rare birds show up there, but partially because so many people cover the hotspot. And there were these really neglected parts of the Chicago lakefront, especially along the southern lakefront, Rainbow Beach, Park 566, and Steelworkers Park, and even the Calumet area, which is it's not along the lakefront, but it's historically was amazing wetland habitat. So Big Marsh, Indian Ridge Marsh, Detsick Pond. These are places I enjoyed exploring with my friends in 2024, and even into 2025. They were pivotal. I found pivotal species on those parts of the lakefront with my friends that we didn't see in anywhere else in Cook County. And there were even birds that they discovered that sometimes I would miss, like mega rarities. My friend Damon McDonald found a second state record on eBird, common raven, fly over him at Park 566. And I wasn't there, so that was a big one I missed. But those birds show up.
If you had to go from furthest part of Cook County to the complete opposite end and a rare bird showed up, what's the longest drive you would have to do that?
Wow, it would be over an hour. It wouldn't be 2 hours, maybe an hour and 15 without traffic from the farthest two ends. So imagine with traffic, add another hour. But I mean, rarely are you at one side and there's a bird all the way on the complete other side. I would say like so much of the birding is concentrated in the city of Chicago proper, which is mid-central and east central part of the county. So I would say the north part of Chicago, south part of Chicago, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, no traffic. But with traffic, you can slap on an extra hour. So yeah, it just depends on the traffic.
How often did you have to chase a rare bird and hope that the traffic was with you to get to it? Were there times where birds just didn't stay long enough? Or in your situation, could you pretty much get to any imported species before it was gone?
Yeah, so I mean, because I did this big year while working full time. Yeah, if I couldn't get out of work, or if I was working out of the county, which I sometimes do, then I would miss the bird. And there were a few times that happened, or I just wouldn't have time to bird during peak migration. If I was able to sneak out of work, if there was a bird on the weekdays, you would have to deal with the traffic. So it was always my focus to try to bird in the early morning before work or in the evening after work. The evening after can be difficult because getting to the hotspot is hard, but in the morning it's not too difficult because there aren't any cars if you wake up early enough. I remember on October 22nd, 2024, my friend Damon found a chestnut-colored longspur at Park 566 along that southern part of the lakefront that very few people go birding at. Incredible. At like 10 a.m. on a Tuesday or something. And part of the highway was under construction. So I think from my Evanston apartment, it took like over an hour and 15 just to get to him. And so imagine that entire time for a third state record. Chestnut car longspur. At any moment, the bird could fly away. That's kind of the exciting part of the hobby.
Yeah.
Like my hands are gripping the steering wheel and sweating. But yeah, I ended up getting that bird. That was a big time bird for my first big year. But it goes to show like you're sort of at the mercy of circumstance and what other people find, right? Because our big year journeys can't find every single bird. It really is a community effort.
Do you have a county bird alert system, whether it's WhatsApp or Discord, that you all participate in?
Yep. So I Discord, just like y'all Ontario folks have, but I just turn on the eBird Cook County alerts too, for life needs.
Yes.
On my first two big years, I did year needs as well, but that can get annoying if like you just don't have a bunch of common birds and every hour you get pinged for your common bird. But yeah, so eBird alerts and Discord.
Going back to your job, what did you do for work at the time?
Since I'd done both big years, I've had the same job. I work in environmental advocacy and policy. So it really connects to birding and nature and being outdoors. But it's sometimes a lot of desk work, and it's sometimes work that requires me to travel to different parts of the state, especially central Illinois.
Right.
And so specifically during the spring. And so that can be difficult, but that's, I would say, partially the reason in 2024 I missed both Kentucky worm-eating warbler. Those are birds which are like quite rare and overshoot in the spring. However, I think with enough effort, you can find at least one or two of those on your own. And I didn't have much time in the spring because I was always constantly outside of the county. I would say like 3 out of 7 days of the week. And so that took a lot of time away from being able to look for those birds. And so because I wasn't handed to them on a silver platter, ended up missing those birds. Yeah, but the cool part about my job is sometimes I can, if there's an opportunity, I can take an hour break and I can go chase a rare bird, and I get the weekends off, and holidays.
If you live in Toronto, the main hotspot is Colonel Samuel Smith Park. and it is just in the right spot on the shore of Lake Ontario that pretty much every spring warbler at some time will pass through. If you bird from April 25th to June every single day in Colonel Sam, you're probably going to get a list of warblers and vireos that is equal to or even better than someone who might have spent all the time at Point Pelee. That's my one spot that I'm going to keep as a life list priority forever. Do you have a particular hotspot where you live that if I haven't seen that bird, I'm going to get right over there as fast as I can for that one species?
Yes, and it is coincidentally Montrose Point Bird Sanctuary, which is one of the. I'm just really proud that one of my biggest mentors, Robert Bob Hughes, he has 342 or three species
Mm-hmm.
just at Montrose on his
Yeah.
life list, and he really taught me a lot about timings for birds, and he's been birding the hotspot for decades, and so many of my other friends that I've met and connected with over the years have met at Montrose. That's where also the only pair of piping plovers breeds in
Mm-hmm.
Cook County. So that's an endangered species when it comes to the Great Lakes. And so we're really fortunate to have them. So, I mean, the site itself has a lot of story. It's situated in the city of Chicago, so I can add it to my city of Chicago patch list. Yeah, Montrose, I have 269 species, which puts me number 14 or 13. And so I need like four more birds, I think, to get into the top 10.
Right.
But every single bird at this point, even at 269, to get into 269, you need a lot of rare birds. And
Yeah.
so I cannot imagine. There's a couple people at 300 or above 300, very few, but their life lists are extraordinary. I mean, they have like groove-billed Ani, they have like all three Jaegers, they have like painted bunting, curve-billed thrasher, ancient murrelet. I mean, so the birds are just unbelievable.
I think I might be down to number 4 because I don't live there anymore. But let's go back to planning the big year so that you've got 4 seasons, or maybe let's talk 3 seasons. You've got winter, which encompasses January to the end of March, and you've got late November to the end of December. So that's one season. And birds that you can get in January, February, can you get some of those same birds in December? So if you miss it in January, you can still plan on getting it?
Yes, but not guaranteed. It depends on how fast it'll get cold. So if it
Right.
doesn't get cold fast enough, then you will miss specific birds. Like Glaucous Gull, I missed in 2024 because I didn't get it at the beginning of the year, and then our December was very warm.
What kind of birds are
Yes,
you looking for in the winter?
Glaucous Gull, Tundra Swan, Northern Shrike, any winter finches that are lingering. So
Mhm.
red poll or evening grosbeak or white-winged crossbill, red crossbill, depending on what erupted,
Right.
because you're not guaranteed to get that in the fall. And I think everything else you can get, and of course a rarity. But then those are the expected birds.
Right.
But in 2025 when I did the second big year, I happened upon a glaucous gull just 5 days into the year. It was my county bird. It was like my 305th county bird or something. It was just exciting to get. But
Mhm.
because I never got it in 2024, but I didn't get Northern Shrike or Tundra Swan or other birds because I didn't plan on doing a second big year until
Right.
halfway through that year. So I ended up having to clean up my mess in November and December, and I got lucky. There was no guarantee that I would pick up some of the winter birds that I needed. Yeah, so in 2024, I just didn't really know what I was doing, and I missed specific birds. And in 2025, I didn't start until halfway through the year, so both times the start of my year was poor.
Mhm. Did you have a number you wanted to get to by spring that
Yeah,
you
not a
put?
certain number, just like a check off what I think is missable. And so
Mhm.
to get the birds that I think are most crucial that I won't have another opportunity for, to put the most work for those kinds of birds both years. And but really the second big year I didn't really start until I kept myself up in pace halfway through, but then the fall was really the grind where I had to pick up like Northern Shrike and Tundra Swan and a bunch of other birds that I didn't expect to. But yeah, it really comes down to like my thinking comes down to get the bird that's missable
Mhm.
as soon as possible, and the other ones will fall into place. And they typically do. Even some of the rarities, like if there's a rare bird that's just an annual migrant, it's okay to miss it in the spring. Like 2 years in a row, I missed whooping crane and golden eagle in the spring.
Mhm.
Didn't matter because 2 years in a row, I got whooping crane, golden eagle in the fall. And yes, you're playing a dangerous game, but you
Mhm.
get two chances. So
Right.
if you don't get in the first chance, you always get your second chance.
I know sort of the route that the whooping cranes take, but Chicago wasn't on my radar that you can get those there. What is the situation with whooping cranes there? Are they flyovers or do they actually come down in stage?
So in Cook County, they only fly over. In most counties, they just fly over. Very rarely, like will one or a pair land somewhere in a cornfield somewhere in
Hmm.
Illinois. But yeah, they will just fly over and migrate through nonstop. And March to April is like peak in the spring, and then late October to end of November, or maybe just November, is the fall window for Santo crane migration, and the whooping cranes will just migrate with the Santo cranes. Only about 70 or so whooping cranes are migrating with six-figure Santo cranes. So you're looking to pick out as
Hmm.
best as you can those birds, but their migratory path is actually west of Chicago. So you need to be in the outskirts of the city, in the county, but outskirts of the county. And if you don't get the right wind set up, then they're just not going to fly through Cook County. So it's not
Right.
a guaranteed bird.
So do you have to pick certain days for stakeouts? Do you follow the whooping crane migration eBird?
Time the sandhill migration. So as soon as people start reporting the trickle of cranes coming in, like, oh, I got trains, as in November, when people are saying I got cranes over my yard, like, it's beginning. So you try with the cranes and
Mhm.
with the sandhills, and then you just hope there's a whooping in there. Is really my philosophy to it. And you can't really bank on the eBird sightings because there's only 70 or so individual whooping cranes. So
Right.
feasibly, all 70 could fly through Illinois and nobody sees one.
Is
So
that dedicated time to get it? Time
yes.
just
What's nice
working
is it
that long?
happens during Thanksgiving break usually, and Thanksgiving season. So both years in a row, I've gotten whooping crane on days where I was technically off from work. So that was
Mhm.
really, really lucky. But otherwise, I would try to aim to use a paid time off day from work. Like a few days before, if I check the weather and I'm having a nice northwest wind setup that are pushing the birds
Mhm.
to Cook County, Santo cranes, and a nice cold wind that'll induce them to migrate. But yeah, you're really mercy at the weather. If you don't get that northwest wind, you don't get
Mhm.
that cold front at the right time of year, they're just going to shoot straight south. They're not going to even pass through Cook County.
It's interesting because it's a bird you have to get for a big year, but it's a bird that singularly requires a lot of effort. Just watching the skies.
Oh, multiple days. I would
Mhm.
say many, many days, perhaps many weeks watching the sky. And but
Mhm.
because you're also trying for Swainson's hawk, golden eagle,
Mhm.
other rare birds. I mean, in theory, you can miss whooping crane and still break the record. But then
Yes.
you have to make up for it with something. I don't know, Lasley bunting. You need to make it up with something super rare.
So, do you spend most of your time in spring at Montrose, or are there other places where are hotspots to get all your warblers?
Along the lakefront in general. So yeah, Montrose is awesome because you can go there, and I mean, I had a checklist with over 100 species for the first time ever at one hotspot, and it was at
Mhm.
Montrose this year. And I didn't even try. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't my intention until a couple hours in. I'm like, oh, I'm at like 80 something. Let me just get 20 more. So yeah, Montrose is great, but all along the Chicago lakefront and the inner city Chicago parks are these great migrant traps because we have such great green spaces, but it's still interspersed in this concrete jungle. So the
Right.
birds fly in and they get find these green spaces, and really rare birds show up there. We had a tropical kingbird in
Mhm.
Jackson Park 2 weeks ago, and Jackson Park is an inner city park. It's close to the lakefront, and that's just a big green space that tropical kingbird is flying through buildings and skyscrapers, and then it finds this green space, and it ended up finding Jackson Park, and so that's just a testament to they really look for these places as respite. And so anywhere along the lakefront is magical in spring and especially and in fall too.
And what's the typical number of warblers you get for a season?
Ooh, I wish I knew the exact number. I would say 27. I think we probably get all the warblers you get.
Mhm. Are there
And
warblers you
Kentucky
get?
warbler and worm eating is more likely for us,
Mhm.
but still rare. And we get Kirtlands.
Mhm.
We've been getting Kirtlands for the past 3 years in a row. We've
Oh,
gotten a
really?
Kirtlands warbler. So, but just one bird, and it's just lucky someone finds one. So
Yeah.
I've gotten one actually 2 years in a row now, but I missed it on 2024. But it is still a statewide rare bird alert. Like everyone goes wild if a Kirtlands warbler
Yeah.
gets spotted. But add Kirtlands to that list, and worm eating in Kentucky, and I think we have the same warblers. We do not get Swainson's warbler, and we do not get any of the Western warblers, except if it's just a vagrant.
Where you're situated, you don't get lucky with McGillivrys or anything that.
We had our first county record this year, reported 4 days after the fact or something. So, but it was actually at Montrose. But we did have a McGillivray's warbler. But those kinds of birds, yeah, like Townsend's warbler, I missed in 2024, but it showed up. Like those birds do show up. They're just very few and very fleeting.
What were some of the rarest birds that you did see in the year? How many lifers did you manage to get?
Yeah, I mean, my Cook County list was maybe sitting at 250 or something before
Mhm.
my first big year, and picked up 40 birds on my life list my first big year. And my second
Mhm.
big year, I picked up like 10, 15. So many vagrant birds. First big year, I mean, just extravagantly rare birds. Brant, Atlantic subspecies, spotted towhee, a marbled godwit, self-found, parasitic Jaeger, self-found on a lake watch, flyby really close on a
Mhm.
25-mile-per-hour wind. I have some really awesome photos of that. Sabin's gull, 7 of them. Golden eagle was a lifer for me, and that's not a guaranteed bird.
Mhm.
And short-tailed shearwater in
Oh,
2024
oh,
was by far the greatest bird I've ever seen in my entire
well,
life, and it was an incredible bird.
I have a sob story about our short-tailed shearwater, and maybe it's the same one. It was over 2-hour drive for me. And it was middle of the afternoon, and I'm thinking, oh, do I really want to go up there? And I hesitated maybe 10, 15 minutes before I thought, okay, I'm going to go. The bird had all day been coming in really close to shore, disappearing for an hour, and then coming back.
Hmm.
And it was seen 10-ish minutes before I arrived. And everyone's like, okay, well, so it'll be back in an hour. And I was there until basically it was dark and it never came back. That was one of my biggest misses for an Ontario bird. It wasn't a big year, but when you're doing a big year, you don't hesitate. You care about a bird and you
Right.
go. Did you have to go into the boss's office and say, I gotta go, this is a really good bird?
Yes, no, there was one bird, not too many times I had to ask to get out of work. Fortunately, a lot of birds are found on the weekend, or I
Mm,
find myself on the weekend or on a
right.
day off. But there was one, it was a rough. It was a first Cook County record since 1988.
Hmm.
Found in the southern part of Cook County. At point, I was actually still living where I live now before I moved to Evanston, and it was an hour and 15-minute drive, maybe it was even longer than that.
Hmm.
Just projection. I put it in Google Maps, and it was like 3 p.m. I texted my boss, and I'm like, "Please, could I go see this bird? It'd be really special. I'm doing this Cook County big year. I haven't told you." And she was like, "Yeah, just go get the bird." And I'm driving the entire time, especially with a shorebird, like in a floodle next to like a Walmart.
Yeah.
I mean, this bird, like with trucks and cars blaring their horns, it'll leave at any minute. And we were really lucky. I got there and the bird was still there. So got the rough. That was in maybe late March. It was like a really
Yeah.
early rough, or maybe it was early April. I can't remember, but it was in early spring of 2024. But that's one time I was able to rush out of work and get a bird. And the same thing with chestnut collar longspur. But I saw a chestnut collar longspur at Park 566, enjoyed it for maybe like 5 minutes, and then had to run home and go to work. And people got to stay hours with that bird, and I'm really really jealous because that was a third state record. It'd be a long time until I ever see a chestnut collar longspur in Illinois ever again. Let alone Cook County.
Yeah. Do you have birding festivals in Chicago?
Yeah, so I bet people listening may have heard of the Indiana Dunes Birding Festival, which happens in the spring. It similarly happens around the time Ohio does their birding festival.
Hmm.
And so Chicago decided, I mean, that's so close to Chicago and in our region, and it's proven successful. Why don't we do one in the fall in
Mm.
Chicago? And so a lot of the bird organizations here in Chicago, Chicago Bird Alliance, Chicago Ornithological Society, lots of other partners decided, let's start a Chicago urban birding festival.
Mm.
Our urban birding is incredible. We get over 300 species flying through Chicago every year, and my big years help prove just how amazing birding is in the city of Chicago. 2024 was the inaugural year, and so that was when I was on the boat seeing the Sabin's gull in the background of my Zoom. That was on the pelagic organized by the festival, and so that was
Okay.
a really pivotal bird. It was really special to get it on the inaugural pelagic, and actually now I lead the pelagics. I
Mm.
co-lead them for the birding festival. I co-led 2 trips last year, and I'll be co-leading 2 trips this September as well. And so that's Chicago's Urban Birding Festival, and the third ever year is going to happen this fall.
Do you see guiding and leading tours as a future career change for you?
That's tricky because I'll admit I'm obsessed with my Cook County list. Just like
Mm.
all of us are obsessed with our different patch lists and
Yes.
hotspot lists and life lists. And so I see a struggle. I'm friends with a bunch of people who work for an organization called Red Hill Birding,
Hmm.
and they take folks on these international trips, and they miss rare birds like state first birds and things like that because they're out like in May.
Yeah.
Instead of being in May in Chicago and Illinois, they're out, like, I don't know, in Alaska, or they're in Uganda, or an incredible place. So yeah, they're seeing cool birds, but there goes like a first state record roseate tern or something, which ended
Yeah.
up happening this May. By the way, we had a roseate tern in Lake County. That's one tricky part. The other part is I think I want to work specifically in the field I'm working in, which is environmental policy and advocacy. It's a passion of mine, and I
Hmm.
built a great network here, and I work for a cool organization. So I think if there's flexibility in the future
Yeah.
and I get good enough, but I really think I'm still newer to birding, and I
Mm.
really, really respect the deep wisdom and expertise of some of these birding guides that I've interacted with. I'm really a novice when it comes to bird song and call still, and I don't even know my birds outside of Cook County, Illinois. If take me out west and I wouldn't know how to ID like half the birds. I mean, I would know generally what they are, but I don't
Yeah.
even know the common names for them. So
Mhm.
I have so much to learn, and I think I should expand my horizon for next several years or even decades, and then maybe down the line I
Yeah.
could have.
How old are you right now?
I'm 28 now.
You're still at the point where you can plan a future 10 years from now, which is pretty exciting. I wish I was birding when I was 28, but you got 30 years to think about doing that.
Right. How cool of a hobby is this where you connected with me and you found me and we now we get to discuss our big years together and these fun amazing adventures just for the love of the game and the love of the birds. I mean,
Yeah,
it really is such a cool community and hobby.
the community is close knit and willing to share. If you want to call big years a competitive sport, one thing you don't see in other competitive sports is the willingness to share with a competitor, even if that might lead to them finishing ahead of you in the big year.
Definitely.
So you wanted to hear about the story of the whooping crane that we had in Ontario?
Yeah, so I read all about your story, and in 2024, even though I got two in the fall, I got my lifer in the spring. There was a
Mhm.
wayward whooping crane in 2024 that landed in a suburb north of Chicago called Wilmette. And through like a lot of Facebook sleuthing, people tracked down. Someone posted, "What is this bird in my front yard?" Like it was
Yard
like an
bird. Oh my
April
God.
morning, and it was after the peak crane migration, and a bunch of us like triangulated and figured out where this was, and we got to the bird, and she was emaciated. Folks called the Department of Natural Resources, the International Crane Foundation, rescued the bird,
Mhm.
and then we learned later, I think she was released somewhere in Wisconsin, and she was all better. And a year and a half later, I learned about your bird, Sinclair, even more exciting. In 2025, my record breaking bird, I ended up seeing one more after that, but my 295th bird, which broke the previous record by a single bird, my own record, was whooping crane. I saw a pair of them, juves, flying west of Hawkwatch spot along the Des Plaines River. And we figured out because the International Crane Foundation actually tracks where certain whooping cranes are, and they'll ping where they are every 12
Yes.
hours or something. So it's not exact. It's not like it's tracking them in the moment. So we were lucky enough to intercept them thanks to the kindness and thoughtfulness of some Lake County birders, which were communicating with us because they were up in Lake County first and they flew down south. Later on, researched their band numbers, these 4 digits that are associated with the whooping crane, and I learned their names. And one
Mhm.
of them was named Sinclair. And that same exact whooping crane is the one you and other people saw in Ontario.
Mm.
So I think that's just an incredible connection.
That's one of those serendipitous things because you broke the record with that bird and it was this huge Ontario bird for us. When you think about your hour and a half drives in Cook County, this was 6 something hours to get up there. As soon as I heard about it, it was like, I have to get a whooping crane for Ontario.
Yeah,
I got to see it with all my friends,
awesome.
birding buddies, and that was just an incredible bit of luck. But when I heard St. Clair was your record breaking bird, it was like, oh, I got to talk to you because that's something that's shared in a community that can happen hundreds or thousands of miles apart. People get to see it, but that's a connection that it's hard to find any other way. It's the same bird that we're sharing across the country. And that's kind of cool. That's one of the amazing things about birding.
Yes, absolutely. And the Great Lakes connection too, I think is very unique. I think we're really lucky to be birding in this region. I think it's the best place to bird in the entire world. And I'm just saying that tongue in cheek because I've not birded across the entire world. I like having that birding pride. And yeah, I think the Great Lakes are magical, and I think the rarities prove it. The regular migrants prove it. I think the community proves it. It really is just an amazing hobby, and it's all because of the amazing birds.
Speaking of the Great Lakes, so when I was doing my 2022 big year in the fall to go to the Lake Watch in Hamilton to spend a day looking for a long-tailed Jaeger, people see them, they are so distant. And I don't know why we don't do pelagics out into the lake to see all these birds that we're watching from 1,000 meters away. Yet we could all get in a boat and do it. You seem to have a good community that gets together and does that in Chicago.
Yeah, I've done over 20.
What is the secret
My
to organizing something like that to get all the birders on board? Do you have to get a certain amount of money from everybody in advance?
Well, I mean, you have to be transparent about the cost. If you're going to do a fishing charter, then ask them to, instead of go fishing, say, hey, actually keep us out there and drive around and we're going to look for birds. You have to convince the fishing charter. You also have to
Yeah.
get the right company that's going to be amenable to it, or you have someone who has a boat. But
Mhm.
either way, it's going to cost a lot in gas. So it's
Mhm.
going to be an expensive trip. I know these East Coast and West Coast pelagics can be not that expensive. My friend told me he went on one for like $60.
And,
I spend like minimum 200 on mine per trip
Yeah.
And the thing about Lake Michigan, I think this is being completely honest. Lake Michigan, especially the Western Great Lakes,
Hmm.
we have fewer of those seabird migrants than the Eastern Great Lake. I
Hmm.
think that's shown in the eBird data when you look at the Lake Watch data.
Hmm.
And so I've gone out on Lake Michigan many, many times where I get squat. And so you're paying $200, sometimes more, and you're traveling to the destination back and forth, spend all day on the boat, and you're seeing only herring gulls. And that is the worst. You really need a community of birders who are like willing to try it multiple times, who can handle that cost. And then I think the trickiest part is just finding a boat. You just got to schedule it and then hope the weather turns out. Funnily enough, I think the weird catch 22 almost is like a lot of these seabird migrants are going to push through the Great Lakes when the weather is incredibly difficult to be out in. It's going to be high winds and rainy. That's usually when you can't go out on the boat because it's just not safe to be out in the water. You're kind of actually going out on the boat at a suboptimal time. But regardless, I've gotten savage gull, long-tailed Jaeger twice, 7 or 8 parasitic Jaegers. So like, I've gotten really good birds when it's like glass water, there's no wind, and they're just out on the lake.
Hmm.
And so the birds are out there. I think there's so much of the lake to explore.
Speaking of which, how far out is it allowed counted as Cook County?
It's almost 15 miles east, which is really nice. I mean, north and south, we border Indiana and then Lake County. But
Mhm.
then you hit Michigan if you go east. So you have a lot
Mhm.
of borders. The GPS matters. I've got to count parasitic Jaeger both in Indiana and Cook County because that's how close we were to the border
Wow.
sometimes. But the bird and the birder have to be in Cook County for it to count. I've been fortunate enough that that's been the case. But yeah, we have GPS coordinates on every boat that we go on. Captain is always cognizant of where we need to be because that's the
Mhm.
objective. So
Right.
funnily enough, the game we play, birders who don't care that much about the list, we could go around the entire lake. But for the purposes of when I've been going on the boat, I sort of organize them like we have to be in Cook County waters.
Right. Were there ever birds that were just on the other side of the county line, not just on boats, that you were just fly up in the air so I can get you in this county?
Yep,
Is that
and I missed it. Glaucous gull. It was either in January or February of 2024, my first big year. I was looking at one in Indiana waters, and I was standing in Chicago, and I needed it to fly in Illinois or wake up. It was a first cycle or a young bird, very distant my spotting scope, and I just left. I remember I just didn't wait for it to get up and see which direction it would fly. I didn't even
right?
give it a chance because I was thinking I'll see another glaucous gull. No, I didn't.
Mhm.
So, and I only broke the record by a single bird. So that until the end of the year, I was thinking about glaucous gull. It was always on my mind. That, especially because I put these strong expectations on myself after the summer. Like I really can break this record,
Mhm.
and it was always down to the wire. And I knew I made that mistake in the beginning of the year. I should have stayed with that bird because odds are 50-50 it would have flown north and then it would have flown into Illinois. That was the one bird was just out of reach. You know, the second time in 2025, marbled godwit on the border between Indiana and Illinois, this north-south border at this place called Wolf Lake in the Calumet area, southeast side. The bird was reported, and I learned about the bird because from the Indiana Discord the night before. And I told my friend who was also doing a Cook County big year. I told him like this is a really good bird. So we both show up at dawn. The bird is on the Indiana side of Wolf Lake, and we had to hope that it would get up and fly to Illinois, fly to Cook County, and it did.
Mhm.
Not only did it do that, but we have photographic evidence of it picking up, flying, and
Mhm.
flying over the border. And so we have like zoomed out shots. It's just an incredible checklist. If you look up marbled godwit in the southeast side of Chicago, you'll see that checklist with me and Phil Stossberg. Probably one of the best bird experiences ever on top of the shearwater and some other amazing birds. So that was a feel good story after the fail
Mhm.
glaucous gull in 2024.
What was the rarest bird you saw?
Short-tailed shearwater,
Yeah.
2024.
And what about your 2025 big year?
We had a mountain bluebird in the spring. That was a mega rarity. In the fall, self-spotted long-tailed Jaeger, Swainson's hawk with a friend, Mike McBrien. But then I would say the day I broke it with those 2 whooping cranes,
Mhm.
and we had a golden eagle 10 minutes before. I got the whooping crane golden eagle combo.
Mhm.
We call it the golden whopper. And so, yeah, so that was a really cool moment. But oh, and on the same lake Skywatch for the Swainson's hawk, we had a Plagiatus ibis flyby. So
Ah.
juvie of either white-faced or glossy fly right by the window where we're sky watching. It was incredible.
Mhm.
So getting a Swainson's hawk and an ibis on a flyby, and plus long-tailed Jaeger is super rare, just like it is for you all.
Yeah.
Got it 2 years in a row, and the second one was epic too. It was not as clear cut until we really dived into the photos and figured
Mhm.
out what happened. That it was long-tailed. Yeah, and it was also a darker juve long-tailed. Normally they're like more ghostly looking. So it was that one was also
Yeah,
amazing.
I've been to Chicago in the winter and it's really cold.
Hmm.
Was birding in some of the coldest days difficult for you, or is that just something as a Chicagoan that is nothing for you?
Yeah, I mean, just like you all up in Canada, you just bundle up and brace yourself for some amazing gulls. It is not easy birding, but the thrill of the cold, I know there's going to be good birds.
How many times where I was so cold that I couldn't feel my fingers, and then as soon as that bird you were staking out appears, you don't even notice it anymore. Just the
Right.
adrenaline and the dopamine rush through your system, and suddenly you're not cold and you're not even thinking about the weather anymore. Well, thank you very much. This has been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time, especially being able to share some common stories with you.
Yes, this was so much fun. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I appreciate it and hope to talk to you again soon, and I'll be following your adventures as well. So take care.
Thank you. Likewise, sir. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
So, what have we learned from this episode, and in fact, every episode of the Big Year podcast? Well, the life of a birder seems to be long drives, followed by brief but beautiful experiences in the middle of nowhere looking for a bird that might not be where you hoped it would be, or might not show up at all. Someone once said, birding is not always about the birds you see, but often the places where birds take you. The places you might never have been to if not for the birds. Yes, there is more to birding than big year birding. Yes, there is something to be said for the thrill of the chase and the discovery of one of the most rare birds you've ever seen. But then, once the big year is over, there is the return to the purest form of birding. Just you, your binoculars, and the birds. Somewhere in the woods or a park, or even where I sit right now, in your own backyard. Well, not actually in your backyard, but you get the idea. For me and many others, especially those of us with ADHD, birding quiets the mind when not chasing rarities, and lets you take a step back from the noise and chaos of life. Quiet of the woods, only broken by bird song, is what makes birding truly special. It's not the bird, it's the journey. Well, sometimes it is the bird. And with that, as I sit here enjoying my backyard birds, about to head out for a free birthday latte at Starbucks, I bid you good birds, good birding, and good times with all the birders that make birding the most amazing way to leave the real world behind. Is that too much? I mean, really, that sounded a little bit too sentimental for me. I was trying to end on a lighter note, and I just sounded like I was trying to be profound. Well, maybe I wasn't trying to sound profound, but I hope I didn't seem over the top. I think I really did speak from the heart. Well, the brain. Who knows where the words we speak come from? Certainly not the heart. The heart can't do anything more than beat. It's the brain where thoughts and words come from. Well, sorry for waxing a bit philosophical, but hey, it's my birthday and I'll wax if I want to. And with that, as I sit here waiting for the truck to go by, now we got an airplane, we got way too many things.